Graham, for all of Chelsea's huffing and puffing there this evening, is it fair to say that Real were well worth their 4-0 aggregate win?
Yeah, I would agree with you there, Joanne. Chelsea not good enough in front of goal. They had their fair share of the game. Probably the better side for 50 minutes. Didn't take the chances that came their way. And of course, Real Madrid are always dangerous, particularly on the counter-attack. And Chalobah, as Ray mentioned in commentary, made a horrendous mistake in going for the ball, thinking he could win the ball when he was nowhere near it. And once Real Madrid scored, that was them 3-0 up. That was the end of the tie.
It is interesting listening to the crowd there, Richie. They've just been beaten 2-0 at home. Things are not going well at the moment. I don't actually hear a huge amount of boos. We heard boos when Courtois was on the ball.
But we also saw a lot of them leaving. And Dara did say there's only half of them left. So I think if you were to have a conversation with the ones who are out in the streets now, you might get the conversational version of boos. I think you're right. It was a 4-0 is a fair reflection of what happened over the two legs. I don't think Chelsea laid a glove really on Real Madrid at any point. And I think a performance like this, a result like this, it's just the inevitable consequence. This is what you get if you run the dressing room and the club the way they've done so this season, and the team is on the run of performances and results that they're on this season. And they've an interim manager in charge, someone like Frank Lampard, who's only had a couple of weeks to prepare. Like, there's so many circumstances around this club at the moment which would make these scenes the ones you'd expect.
Having said that, then, does that mean that Frank Lampard, he's come in 4 games, 4 defeats, and yet does he come out of this with a small bit of credit?
Frank Lampard?
Yeah.
Where would you go if you were to say, okay, Frank Lampard is deserving of credit? Do you know what I mean? It would be you'd be digging really, really deeply here, because I think even in the discussion around why he was approached by Todd Bowley initially, and this isn't confirmed, but people were talking, he's brought in to placate the fans. If I was a player in that dressing room and there was any truth to that, you'd be livid. You're going, really, is that the reason decisions are made at the top level of this club for a position as important as the first team coach? And it's to placate supporters who are rightfully disgusted with how things are going. So it's just a very difficult environment, I assume, for supporters, for the owner, for the players. Huge amount of questions they have to answer over the next little while, not just who do they appoint as coach.
It's probably better than the other rumour that he was brought in because James Corden, the TV presenter comedian over in America, suggested it to the co-owner Ted Bowley. What are your thoughts on all of this and where it leaves the players are out? They're trying to go up to the few fans who are left there in Stamford Bridge. I say the few fans. I know you mentioned, Richie, that they've left, but the ones who are there are still making plenty of noise.
Well, I thought Chelsea did well for 50 minutes. I thought Lampard set his team up quite well. You know, you can't blame him for the chances they missed, which they had 2 or 3, like Kante snatches at one in the first half from about 10 yards, misses the target. Cucurella has a great chance. If they get that first goal, things might have been a bit different. They might have got some impetus and they might have got some inspiration from a goal. I think we said at half-time that the first goal was going to be crucial and Madrid got it with a mistake. Well, I think Lampard can take a bit of credit out for the way Chelsea played in 50 minutes. So that's the best they played for him. But he's inherited a basket case, you know.
He knew it was a basket case when he went in.
No, he had nothing to lose, did he? He had nothing to lose. And it is his club. He was a brilliant player for them. So I can't blame him for taking the chance. But I think what Chelsea need to do now is find a manager very quickly, a manager that they're going to entrust to change things around, to have a look maybe the remainder of the season and decide who's going to stay, who's going to go, who do I want. Too much of what's going on at Chelsea has been the owner deciding which players come in. That'll never work, you know. I think Real Madrid had a situation about 15 years ago when they were buying everybody and they didn't win the Champions League. You know, you need a strategy, a plan, a manager who you're going to trust. And And, you know, that's the next big decision for Bowley. Who's going to come in?
So 2-0 on the night, 4-0 on aggregate for Real Madrid. And for all the talk about all the effort Chelsea put in tonight, when they went up, you weren't quite sure if there was likely to be an end product. It seemed like every time Real went up, you expected them to score, and Rodrigo was the man who ended up getting on the end of them.
They've more quality, they've more composure, they've been getting far better results. And this is just a poor decision here from Chalobah, but from the here on in, Rodrigo does really, really well. Composure in the box, puts it across the goal and then makes himself available, has the presence of mind to take a touch before finishing. But this decision here by Chalobah, you stay in your feet and you try and keep up with him, you win the ball, or worst case you concede a foul and take the yellow. He manages to do none of them, which gives Rodrigo acres of space. And this is the composure in the 6-yard box. You think of the chance Cucurella had just before half-time, where he just seemed to just swing at it to get it on target. Vinicius Junior there was aware that Rodrigo was square. Rodrigo had the sense to take a touch first. So just different levels tonight. And they held out for an hour, but that was the goal that killed the tie. That's
what it was, wasn't it? Even 15 seconds before that one was finished off, you were just waiting to see who was going to get on the end of it.
Yeah, well, as Richie said, they're composed, aren't they? That's the hottest area of the pitch, and you need a cool head. Real had the head for it. I'm afraid Chelsea didn't. They were snatching at things. They were actually frightened to be in that position. You could see that Rodrigo was very happy to be where he was. Yeah.
They always have that. Like, you never, much like the manager, Ancelotti, they never give the impression that they're flustered in any way. Like, you think back to the previous round, they were 2-0 down at Anfield. No panic. Go and win the game 5-2. And like the plan tonight, you could see from Chelsea, you used the phrase that they huff and puff in the first half, high energy, playing the front foot, get the crowd to make a bit of noise. That's not enough. That's not enough against this Real Madrid team. You need way more.
Yeah, it's almost like you're suggesting cockiness, which I suppose all really good,
well, I think
good teams have.
Huff and puff is a bit unfair. They did create chances. That's not huffing and puffing when you're creating chances. And Chelsea did that, but they didn't.
Worked.
No, they just don't have the quality. They just don't have the quality or the confidence at the moment. The confidence is shot. It's probably the wrong word to use because they don't shoot.
Well, one man who did, although for his second one, Rodrigo, he nearly held on to it a little bit too long.
No, he didn't. No.
He knew what he was doing.
This was Valverde, you mean, yeah. Again, composure in the box. Valverde knows where Rodrigo is. He knows he's in a better position than him. It's like the old coaching that you give to kids. If someone else is in a better position for you to score, and that's what he did, he just picked him out. If he goes for a shot here, he might get blocked by the goalkeeper, but if he rolls it inside, it's a tap-in into an empty net.
And Rodrigo knows he has that time. He can play a little bit with the goalkeeper, toy with him a little bit. That's just a sign of how confident they were, how in control they were.
86 shots Chelsea had in April to produce one goal.
Yeah, it's quite incredible that they just don't have a striker. They haven't had one for a few years. You know, even when they bought Lukaku, you thought. I remember seeing Lukaku at Arsenal, going back about 3 seasons, in one of the early games in the season, and I thought, oh, now Chelsea really have a complete team now. He scored on that day against Arsenal, and then he just went completely off the boil, and he's been away in Italy for the last couple of seasons. Now he's coming back. Now he's not going to be the answer. I don't think he even wants to come back. So this is the kind of mess they're in. They haven't got a striker. I think Richie said Havertz has got 9 goals this year. You know, when you think of Ollie Watkins, what he's doing at Aston Villa, what Harry Kane does for Spurs, you have to have a goal scorer, and they just haven't got one.
OK, that will explain low scoring. But this is practically no scoring whatsoever. I mean, it's not only strikers who can put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, they've been spending the season trying to look for the right partnerships and the right selection of players in the front level. Like, even in this 2-legged tie, they started last week with Felix and Sterling, didn't work. They started tonight with Havertz, Gallagher in behind them, it didn't work. And I think when you're not scoring and you're not winning and you're losing as they have been, and you've a squad as deep as they have with subs bench that has as many highly paid, really expensive internationals on the bench, common sense would tell you, like, try new partnerships, but that in turn means there's a inconsistency of selection. So no one's had a run of games where they can really kind of build up any kind of momentum, and because the team are losing. I think confidence is a key area up front more than any other. Like if you're a defender and you're not playing well, you can time your tackles, you can physically impose yourself. In midfield, you can do a lot of work by your energy and your heart. Up front, you kind of need to back yourself. You need to see chances before the rest of us see it. You need to take them on. You need to believe that you can do something wonderful in many cases. And we saw plenty of times tonight where they had half chances and they just hesitated, or they needed an extra touch, or they didn't take on the chance in the time that they had. So there's loads of reasons why this team would understandably be low of confidence and the morale would be low. But against a team like this tonight, they were just at a different level.
And yet, Liam, for all of that, Chelsea can turn around and say, well, hold on, Chilwell was sent off last week and that clearly made a big difference. Could Real have lost Militao very early on in the second half?
Well, put it this way, if it was in Madrid, Madrid might get this decision. This was the earlier booking when he took, I think it might have been Cucurella down. No, it was Havertz he took down, kicked him. So that's him out of the next game. Now this one here, I think he tries to actually stop and not get involved in contact with Chalobah. But Chalobah goes down. Now it looks probably worse than it actually was, but the point I'm making, if the boot was on the other foot and it was in the Bernabeu, probably Real Madrid get the decision. I think it was that close. It was debatable.
Well, they got the decision there. There was no second yellow for Militao.
Yeah, I think that would have been a very, very harsh booking. I think Chalobah kind of held up, almost looked for the contact. I think Militao did as much as he could to avoid the contact. There was some contact with his arm, but again, if you're a Chelsea fan, or if Frank Lampard is pointing to that moment in the post-match interview as, you know, we didn't have our luck on another night, like he's focusing on all the wrong things.
I bet he will, though, Richard.
I know. Hopefully,
I'd like to have a
surely
bet.
he won't.
I'm not supposed to talk about betting, but I bet.
Surely he won't.
I'll have a few quid that Frank Lampard brings that up in the post-match.
He can't. If he comes out later with any kind of serious oomph behind the comment of going, the ref let us down tonight.
Well, what else is he going to say? Because if he criticises the players, everyone will say he's criticising them again.
How about he just reads the room and sees what's in front of him, acknowledges they were up against a team of a different level, they're not playing anywhere near what we think Chelsea's best is. He's only in the job a wet week. The dressing room is in turmoil. The club is also, we could describe it as that. So they're the reasons for tonight's performance in a 4-0 defeat over two legs where you limp out at this stage. That's what happened. If he comes out and tries to get us all to look at the referee to explain their exit from this competition, then they're in big trouble.
I think he will say that, but he'll also say, well, we didn't take our chances. We didn't take our chances. And they didn't. Again, on Saturday, this Saturday, I think it was against Brighton, they never created the chance, did they? But tonight they created chances and didn't take them. So he's going to mention that. Now, that's not his fault.
Well, how good were the chances then throughout? Not just we saw the ones at half-time from the first half, but across the 90 minutes.
They did create opportunities which you would expect them to do. This was a ball that falls to Kante just in the 6-yard box early on in the second half, but it's blocked by a defender and goes comfortably wide. There wasn't any really clear-cut chances after this. This was good 1-2 between Havertz and Kante. That's not going to trouble Courtois. Ball into the back stick here. Madrid don't kind of clear it properly. Gallagher again, that's a tame shot. It's not going to trouble Courtois. Same thing here. I think the ball falls to Fernandes. Same thing. Shot straight at the goalkeeper, who does well to save it, but you'd be astonished if he doesn't let that in. And there's the last couple of minutes ago. This is actually given us offside, but Mudryk doesn't know that. He's 8 yards out, one-on-one, and he misses the target. So they just didn't have enough quality up front.
They actually had better chances in the first half with Kante and Cucurella. They were clear-cut. Those was, as Richie said, they were shots, speculative shots. And Courtois, you're not going to beat them with that kind of shooting.
OK. We're about to find out which one is right in relation to what Frank Lampard says.
What about?
Is that fighting talk from Frank Lampard?
Well, it was to be expected. I knew he was going to say that they had played well for, he said 60 minutes. I thought it was 50 minutes, 55 minutes. But once the goal went in, it was inevitable what was going to happen. It looked like Real Madrid would score again and could have scored maybe 3 times. So, but he's going to say that. He's going to defend himself, and he has a reasonable point. I don't think you could argue that Chelsea played well for 50 minutes, but they didn't take their chances.
No, he defended himself. He said, I'm not going to let anybody off the hook now for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I've heard him strike that kind of tone several times in his managerial career, where he does kind of sometimes promote his own role or distance himself between some of the things that aren't going well on the pitch and himself. But I don't know what his position is. I don't know what success is for him from now on. Like, he's lost 4 games out of 4 since he's been there. We spoke at half-time or before. Like, you'd understand why he would take that job. He's out of work. He's a Chelsea fan. I assume he's getting really well paid. He got to manage in the Champions League. And because of the unpredictability of that club, you think, well, if he goes in and does well, maybe they'll give him the job. Like, they've been making unexplainable decisions all season. Maybe he'd get it. So I understand why he would go there, but he's got a very difficult job because there's a dressing room now that, in real terms, have nothing to play for. There's no European spot gettable. They can't go down. And the dressing room knows that some of those players have to be sold to balance the books. There are too many there, so they have to leave. A new manager is going to come in and clear some of them out anyway. And I'd assume a lot of them will already be onto their agents going, get me top of the queue to get out of here. This is a basket case. So that's a really difficult environment for any kind of manager who has no authority. The players know he's not calling any shots in terms of new contracts. He may not even be having full say in the team lineup. We don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't. So it's a hugely difficult situation.
I think Richie's right, and that's why I think they need to make an appointment now. They need to go for a manager now and give him the 7 games or 6 games, wherever he might get, to decide who he wants to start with next season, and believe in the manager and let him have a say in the recruitment of players and not leave it up to executives or not leave it up to the owner. You know, that's what needs to happen.
Like, a manager does have to really kind of get to grips with that dressing room, but there has to be weight behind the manager's words. Lampard's words carry no weight because they know he's going to be gone next month.
Well, according to Liam, he could be gone next week. You're saying...
Well, no, I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
They need to make a decision. You know, there's Nagelsmann is available. I wouldn't go for him personally. I don't think he has the clout to come in and sort this situation. I think you want a real guy who has a track record, you know. Well,
Luis Enrique, he's been
he's been manager of Barcelona, he's been manager of Spain. I thought they were a bit unlucky to go out of the World Cup. I think he's a guy who believes in himself. He's a guy who has, in my opinion, has authority. I'd also put Roberto Mancini in, the manager of Italy. He's another one who I think would have the authority to come in there and sort things out. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You asked an interesting question when we were just having a chat earlier on. You said, but is it an appealing job?
I don't know.
So you see the likes of... So Luis Enrique's out of a job, Julian Nagelsmann's out of a job. Like, why would Roberto Mancini want to go back there?
I'm trying to work out, is this a really appealing job, or is this a job where you just go, maybe another time, but for God's sake, not now? Like, because you're going to take over a job... There's no European football next season. So that might affect the kind of players you can bring in if you have money to spend, which we don't know if they have because they've spent so much recently. There's also a question mark about who makes the decisions. This was an issue under Tuchel's reign. In all those discussions, whether it's Nagelsmann today, someone else tomorrow, they're going to ask about what the structure is within the club, and they're going to want clear answers, like real clarity. We're kind of guesswork, but they'll know the answers. So I don't know how appealing it would be for any of those top managers to come into a club and not be given full say and a dressing room where loads of decisions have to be made.
Well, that's the only way you'd take the job, though, Richie, you know. And these guys, I don't think, the likes of the people we mentioned, I don't know Nagelsmann, but certainly Luis Enrique, I don't think he'd take the job unless he was in charge.
That's what I mean.
Of who comes and who goes.
So we don't know if that element
need that guarantee, you know.
But we don't know if that element is going to be on offer to anyone the club speaks to. Because Todd Bowley doesn't seem to be someone who lacks belief in his own decision-making.
No, but he's a very successful businessman, so surely when things are going horribly wrong, as they do appear to be, surely he has to have the ability to change.
Successful businessman in the business he was in. I haven't seen signs of him being a successful club owner or the kind of person who you would back to make big decisions. pretty much all the major decisions he's made has worsened the status of Chelsea, has deepened the kind of crisis
but
within
does
the
that
club.
not tell him it's time to change? And surely somebody who's successful knows when it's
Yeah,
time
but
to change.
I think
and
the
take
point
advice.
Richie's making, you get a new manager in, but you let him manage. You don't get involved in buying and selling the players, or who should be playing and who shouldn't be playing, or going into the dressing room and telling the players they're embarrassing. I think that has to all stop if Chelsea are going to turn things around. And it's a great club, and it would be a great job for a really authoritative person to go in there and sort things out and get time to sort it out.
Well, one last brief question. So if they do make the appointment, say in the next couple of weeks, or at least agree that somebody comes along and joins, what happens to Frank Lampard? Does he stay there and the new guy just stays in the background? Or what?
No.
If they make an appointment,
Lampard
that's
will
it,
be
gone.
He goes.
paid
So another
paid
big
his
payout.
money that he
goes.
signed up for or whatever, and they'll thank him. And Lampard will understand that the manager needs that vital amount of time to decide who's going to stay and who's going to go.